What's poppin'? Welcome to another weekly edition of the Best Way to Smoke News, sponsored by none other than Cali Gar. Stop smoking spit and
No
get
drip
with that
lip.
glue gar. I'm telling you. This is being presented to you by Serpo Jr.
Big J.
and stepping right on in. Harlem set to open first legal dispensary. It is a celebratory time in one of New York City's most historic neighborhoods, which will open its first legal marijuana dispensary next week. The dispensary, known as Gotham Buds, has a tentative grand opening scheduled on September 5th at its location just across the street from the iconic Apollo Theater. The local news station noted that the opening of the business has faced some pushback from the community. A Harlem-based business grow called the 125th Street Business Improvement District filed a lawsuit in April with the New York Supreme Court claiming that the process was conducted secretly in order to avoid opposition from the community. Come on, my people in Harlem. Let's just smoke in peace.
Man, let it be.
Man.
Moving on. Bahamas considers weed legalization for religious medical use. Government officials in the Bahamas last week introduced a number of measures that would dramatically change the country's marijuana laws, including the proposal that would legalize cannabis for religious and medical purposes. The Associated Press reports that the Bahamian government introduced several bills aimed at marijuana reform. One, according to the Associated Press, would decriminalize possession of small amounts of pot. That's a good move, man. Go on and legalize it. Legalize it. Get it there.
And for us who traveling up over there, too.
Yep, we want to smoke.
Man.
Moving on.
Ron DeSantis confirms he would not legalize adult use if elected president, warns of fentanyl-laced pot. That's kind of like when you hear it at first, you're like, nah, we ain't fucking with dude. But on Saturday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said he would not legalize adult use cannabis if elected president, confirming what he said in June, and warned about the danger of fentanyl-laced pot at the Never Back Down Super PAC in Iowa. That's what made me look at it and be like, man, I can understand kinda like why he's saying that, because that's cold. Florida Politics reports that the presidential hopeful is gearing up for the 2024 presidential election and taking a harder stance against adult use cannabis. Yeah, I would not legalize, DeSantis said at Never Back Down. I think what's happened is this stuff is very potent now. I think it's a real problem, and I think it's a lot different than the stuff that people were using 30 or 40 years ago. That's kind of like, you can see his little standpoint right there, because back then we didn't have all these different type flavors. And at the same time, we didn't have that much competition to where it's like, oh, I need to lace my shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
if people is lacing their weed with fentanyl and doing that dumb shit like that, that's definitely not the best way to smoke.
Yeah.
Man.
Most definitely not.
Moving on. Legal cannabis pilot program officially launches in Zurich, Switzerland. In Switzerland, a pilot program called Zurich Cannabis with Responsibility officially began on August 22nd and will run for 3 years, concluding in 2026, according to Swiss Info, a multi-node news source based in Sweden. Participants may purchase cannabis at 9 pharmacies and 6 social clubs, but can only consume them in private rooms or in one of the designated social clubs. The study includes 1,200 pre-approved participants, 80% of which are men ranging between 18 to 80 years of age, who are permitted to purchase legal cannabis in order to apply. These participants were required to meet specific criteria, including living in one of the 12 districts of Zurich, having already consumed cannabis regularly for more than a year, having good knowledge of German, do not work as a professional driver, taxi, bus, etc., in any capacity and are not currently pregnant. Although the study is already underway, residents who meet the criteria can still apply for a chance to participate. Weed everywhere.
Weed, weed, weed.
Moving on.
All right, here we go. Studies suggest cannabis users have lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Researchers at a Tabriz University of Medical Science in Iran performed the analysis on 7 studies, obtaining 11 surveys and 4 cohorts, according to Normal, which aggregated the analysis. The 4 cohorts
Mhm. You got it. You got it.
consisted of more than 478,000 subjects. That's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
The meta-analysis revealed that the odds of developing type 2 diabetes mellitus in individuals exposed to cannabis was 0.48 times lower than those without cannabis exposure, according to the researchers. The researchers noted that protective effect of cannabis consumption on the odds of diabetes mellitus type 2 developed has been suggested, although they added that given the considerable interstudy heterogeneity, the upward trend of cannabis consumption and cannabis legalization is recommended to conduct studies with higher level of evidence. That's kind of great news because it's like it's giving these researchers the room and the capacity to like do the proper research.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? To come up with proper analysis for the people.
Yep.
That's your weekly news. The Serpo Jr.
Big J.
Baby.